Americans across the country are now being asked to house illegal immigrants or migrants as early as today. In fact, multiple local governments have been pushing this on their residents for months now. But as far as the Biden administration is concerned, it feels as if taking care of this border situation is a last priority. So the State of the Union address by President Biden did not start with the protection of our border. It did not start with how high costs were for us here at home. And it definitely did not start with all of the problems that Social Security, SSI, and SSDI face. No, it started with the President of the United States talking about another country. So the speech started with President Joe Biden asking for money, not for Americans, but you guessed it, for the Ukraine. So critics called him out because he was supposed to talk about the State of the Union, but he was instead talking about a completely different state. So many analysts said that he went ahead and added salt to the already open wound by asking for money while local governments in different cities are asking Americans to open their homes to illegal immigrants. I guess it's pretty easy to say why he's getting a ton of flack for doing this, because it feels as if he values other countries much more than the one that he's currently leading. Now, I hope you guys understand that this isn't necessarily my personal criticism. It's what many experts are dumbfounded about, because he could have talked about a lot of actual problems that we have here at home. Granted, he did talk about some of it, but he really didn't put it first in line. And this is why some Americans are put off by what we're hearing from local government. Now, before I really get into New York right quick, all I ask is that you guys take 1 second, drop a quick like for the video. I totally appreciate you guys. And I want to thank you guys so much for sharing this video and helping to spread the truth out here. All right, so let's get back to it. So take New York, for example, right? It was around June last year when you had Mayor Eric Adams talk about an interesting way to help them take care of illegal immigrants. Y'all remember that, right? So Mayor Eric Adams of New York, he said that it would be better for the city if residents who have a spare room open in their homes to go ahead and take these people in. So he added that it's a much better setup compared to placing illegal immigrants in congregate settings or emergency hotels. It's not going to be for free though. So Adams did say that the city would be paying for this lodging. The problem is that the residents weren't thrilled about the idea. One New Yorker called Eric Adams desperate at the time and said that he shouldn't interfere with the freedom and the security of his constituents.
With thousands of asylum seekers coming here to New York, Mayor Adams is floating an interesting idea to help accommodate them.
His Honor says homeowners with spare room could be paid to provide shelter. CBS 2's Tony Aiello has details and reaction.
It is my vision to take the next step to this, to go to the faith-based locales, and then move to private residence.
Is there room in your home for an asylum seeker? Mayor Adams is working on a plan to pay New York City homeowners to house them, perhaps $100 a night or more.
There are residents who are suffering right now because of economic challenges. They have spare rooms. It's cheaper and it's a good investment for us to go to a family and assist them instead of placing people in large congregate settings or in these emergency hotels.
In Woodlawn, the Bronx,
good luck with that.
We found a lot of skepticism along with some support.
Some people might go for it. You know, why not? If people open their hearts to people.
Sam Waniala says the private residence idea shows the mayor's running out of asylum housing options.
He may be desperate, but I think he shouldn't do something because he's desperate, so government interfere with our freedom or our security.
The mayor spoke Monday, surrounded by faith leaders, to announce another initiative, paying 50 churches and other faith-based locales to provide overnight shelter to about 1,000 asylum seekers.
Now, the idea obviously didn't pan out very well, because just 2 months after, officials in the city had another brilliant idea. I know, I can't make this up, right? In an effort to ease the pressure on the homeless shelters, city officials suggested federal jails to house them. The site that they wanted to open up would be the Metropolitan Correctional Center that was closed back in 2021. So the jail isn't the best place for people to live in. It wasn't designed for comfort. And this particular one is a nest for some really awful critters that we should probably avoid talking about. But this is the point of desperation that these government officials are at right now. They're at a point where nothing's off limits. The state of Massachusetts was at the same point last year where they literally asked residents to become sponsor families. This would then open up your doors for a family of their choosing. Having some random illegals stay in your house, how does that make you feel? Which brings us to Michigan early this year. So back in February, the State Department of Labor and Economic Development for Michigan encouraged residents to help out with the border crisis. If you commit to this program, you're expected to take part in it for at least 90 days. So that's about 3 months of your time. However, this program in Michigan, it won't ask for the keys to your house. The goal here is to assist illegal immigrants in resettling here in the United States. So you're going to be expected to greet them at the airport, kind of like being their personal chauffeur, secure and prepare initial housing, enroll their children in schools, and also help adults find employment. Now, I'm not sure if you're going to be told to pick them up from the airport too, although I kind of expect that that would be part of the case. It also isn't clear how you're going to be paying for all this, but critics say that volunteers usually pay for themselves, which means that you are going to have to pay for most of this help initially, unless the state becomes or provides a sponsor at some point in time with a budget. But don't get me wrong though, there are programs that provide money to sponsors, to people who open up their homes to migrants. All the government wants at this point is space, because they can't legally just open up your doors and tell you who to let in yet. What was that law called? Eminent domain? Yeah. Anyway, that's the worst case scenario for analysts who say that it's not impossible for legislation to be drawn up, telling Americans that they don't have a choice in the matter. That's the biggest concern for many, because some expect the questions to end and that the orders will soon start. But of course, we're not at that point yet. Many Americans believe that we'll never get to that point because they're patriots who live in this country. That end, early this March, the message remained the same. Denver is pleading with property owners to rent their space to migrants. The twist here is that they're no longer called migrants. The new term, according to local officials, doesn't exist in their vocabulary. So instead, they're asking local residents to rent their space to newcomers. And it might become a necessity in Denver, given that their mayor, Mike Johnston, he just started scaling back their migrant services. The goal, according to Mike Johnston, is to reduce their current budget deficit by nearly $60 million. So instead of the city using up its resources and the city's funds, they're looking to have locals pick up some of that slack. The stay for newcomers won't be for free. However, it's still unnerving for a lot of people. This is made worse when you take into consideration that you've let people in that can be considered terrorists, and you won't know about it. Experts argue that this isn't the case for everybody that's going through the borders. However, it's hard to dispel the notion that since many of them are entering the country illegally, you really don't know who's who. And so now they're working to give these people work permits, but that in and of itself is also problematic. Many argue that they're taking jobs that belong to Americans, but since they're willing to work for minimum wage, maybe even less, more of them are getting employment. President Biden did acknowledge and called illegal immigrants as illegal during his State of the Union speech. However, that was him going off speech. Fellow Democrats didn't like that. The messaging was rebuked by many Democrats, including Nancy Pelosi. So the former House Speaker was worried about the term and said that the president should have used the accepted term, which is undocumented. Now, just to go ahead and clarify here, guys, President Joe Biden was talking about the prime suspect in the death of a 22-year-old American nursing student, Laken Riley, which led many to believe that many Democrats are worried about how illegal immigrants perceive them compared to Americans who have lived in this country their entire lives. The talk of the border is sure to come up multiple times as we head toward November. It's for sure going to be a prime topic for both presidential hopefuls. And it's going to be tough for President Joe Biden to continue pinning the blame on Trump when this crisis has been going on since he started his term. But what do you guys think about all this? Now, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to keep you guys posted as best I can. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for hitting the like button for the video. Thank you for sharing this video and getting this information out to people. We got to save our country, guys. I'll see you on the next one.